Have you recently noticed that your loving, humane, and warm nature appears to have darkened? Have you realized that you've been engaging in secretly regretful, cold behaviors you truly don't mean against the outsiders of your social circle? Are you suppressing your true feelings about being part of this perhaps self-superior group? Do you feel somehow trapped in this uninspiring situation? We've all heard of the controversial practice of prearranged marriages, but what about our prearranged social circles, wherein we find ourselves living among a circle of people with whom we've somehow fallen into as opposed to having selected as our first choice? These may not trample your human rights like outright arranged marriages can, though they certainly may trample your emotional and spiritual rights. It can feel like you don't have nearly as much personal freedom and choice when you're a part of some social circle that seems to have been prearranged from inside a particular segment of your life, whether work, school, or another aspect of your life. The potential for mismatched values, emotional challenges, as well as social and cultural pressures can sometimes be quite high in social circles, including the kind that apparently has come with the territory. It's easy to feel flattered to be well received into such a group. Especially for those of more humble origins, this presumed achievement can make it seem as though we've made it to some higher status in life, at least initially. Or it can simply make us feel incredibly acceptable to others. It all depends on the type of social circle that has accepted us so, seemingly generously. It isn't always to our benefit when we are too well skilled initially in exactly how to use diplomacy to stay in the group, as we may do just to belong in some cases. Though soon enough in unhealthy social groups, we begin to see that we've been fulfilling group expectations that have left us feeling like we've broken our own rules, as well as those of the good ways we believe in. Sometimes a group appears perfectly socially acceptable on the surface, though harbors hidden undertones of insensitivity towards other human beings in the world. In some circumstances, it's incredibly easy to slip into a social group, to become one of its valued mainstays, despite quietly knowing you don't genuinely share their attitudes towards the people of this world. The exclusivity, the cruel comments in secret, the self-indulgent biases against others with whom you are now prohibited from sharing this world. These can make a kind soul feel like a lost, wandering, and meaningless extra on the world's stage, so to speak. If you're experiencing cognitive, even emotional dissonance, you might often observe how the arrangements that hold you captive in some groups are fair, neither to you nor to those in the world who are now considered off-limits to you as an informal member of this informal group. You've probably quietly complained in secret about how you must follow the rules in this circle, which sometimes feels more like a trap than a supportive group. It's always helpful in life to have a circle of others you can rely on. We don't always share the same sentiments, and that's to be expected. It's perfectly okay. But do you feel as though you've long invalidated not your mere sentiments, but your true ethics and values, just to avoid living in the loneliness of solitude? Even if you're right to believe that making new friends might be hard to do, you probably don't want to go on living with those who aren't making you a better or even truer person. When the problem of pretending that your real ethics don't exist actually causes you not just to say, but even do things you quietly feel unhappy about. When this pretending leads you to frequently go along with the status quo only to scold yourself for it later, then maybe it's time to step back and reassess your genuine identity. When you consider this situation, you might try to beat yourself up, or you might blame factors on job circumstances, on where you live, the church or school you attend, a specific person assuming some ringleader role in the group, or even the entire social circle itself. And these feelings are perfectly natural because we feel compelled to identify the culprit whenever life feels void of the true emotional homeostasis we desire. Whether or not part of the blame for the nature of the circle lies with any of these factors, the influence is still there. And you may be fully aware that whenever you gather with these people, you find yourself acting like anyone but you. Perhaps you continue to associate with these people because you really like them despite the fact that their values aren't closely aligned with those that matter most to you. Or is it that you feel you have no choice because a relative expects you to make yourself frequently available to this circle that you share? Maybe you only stay in the group because you think that it's impossible to withdraw from it. Or maybe you just don't want to feel lonely. Maybe you're more scared of those within the clique becoming angry or displeased with you for withdrawing yourself from it. It can be deeply troubling to feel trapped, whatever the underlying reason. And it's certainly possible to like people who you'd rather not hang out with. It's also possible to fundamentally have nothing in common with the group, then to find yourself bitterly feeling like you're a captive to it, hiding suppressed feelings of blame and disappointment, or worse, towards a group you may have long grown out of. People diverge in life. But are you still with this group despite having grown out of it, and simply because you haven't felt brave enough to come forward and openly say that the group is no longer a good fit for you? Or might you still be among them because either obvious or subtle life factors feel like they've coalesced to form a permanent molecular bond between you and the others? If so, then does this situation often leave you feeling helpless to do anything but deny your genuine, egoless, and most true identity and ethical behaviors you find deeply important? If your situation is anything like this, then you may have already considered how unhealthy this way of life is for your emotional well-being. Never feel guilty because you aren't the first person who's behaved in ways intended solely to satisfy some other party, even if you personally would never behave that way on your own. If arranged marriages can be controversial, then why not social arrangements like these? What I'm saying is that while it can feel like everyone expects you to cooperate with the group, if even as its unwilling bride, so to speak, the truth is that the world isn't against you getting out, not at all. While what the world thinks isn't always a concern, it can sometimes feel consoling or boost our confidence to know that millions of people are on our side. You're not a social misfit just because you have striven to please a group, despite your real feelings. We've all pleased others by making unhealthy sacrifices before, to include pleasing our families, employers, neighbors, and these social circles. You may even have a long private list of the grudges you have against this captivity and the ungenuine, undesired behavior it has produced of you. It's easy to feel humiliated because of doing things we strictly don't believe in doing. Behaviors that upset you with yourself, like lying to others because some in the circle expect you to, or keeping secrets about something you believe you are ethically bound to tell someone outside the circle. Gossiping is another activity you might feel pulled into against your greater conscience, or the adaptation of hostility or snobbery towards certain groups in the world, or a cold shoulder attitude meant to shun or scapegoat people you may hardly know, if at all. You might have been wrong for surrendering to the group's values in the past, but that does not mean that you are a bad person. In fact, if you've come to see the cognitive or emotional dissonance of your continuing cooperation with this group, and know you want to change things so you can be your real, ethical self, then you've done something that most people won't do, something which, if done by more people, could have a tremendous healing effect on the world. You are on the right track to think about this problem and how to become finally liberated from it. And the how is often a very unique matter from one individual to the next. It might be that you've gotten advice to keep a job you could replace with one that would suffice, despite the effect that your particular workplace's clique has on you. Maybe you've been told not to move to a friendlier neighborhood to escape the negative neighborhood clique, which has its roots twisting into every aspect of your life and your family, as if burrowing in deeply and permanently. Your intuition can see things that some of your closest confidants may not recognize. So here, you could do well not to share your intentions or reasoning with the well-meaning naysayers in your life, who could be fine with your moving as long as they don't know your real reason for doing so. It's not that you should resort to the alienation of people you've long trusted, though even trusted friends and family members sometimes give unhelpful advice, and not only that, but it's sometimes presented to you with a price tag that reads, "Obey, or else I'll be angry." And this price tag, not the person, is what you have to avoid in the case of anyone you otherwise trust and love. When you find yourself practically cemented into any social circle, escaping it can be quite easy, save for the potential hurt feelings involved if your withdrawal from the group isn't well received by the group. The best possible prevention of things going awry is for you to cool off before you make a move, then to thoughtfully write your motives down without accusing others of making you miserable, no matter how much it might be true. We reserve the discretion to keep some things to ourselves. You don't want to turn your withdrawal from that group into a venting session, because that's usually not well received. Instead, just explain that you've decided to be honest with yourself, that you must confess that you don't have things in common with the group like you thought you did, and try to keep it brief and certainly void of any self-righteous shaming. Afterward, even if there are some who are angry with you, focus on how to reconnect with the part of yourself that you've suppressed and have probably missed for a long time. Immediately get back to the things that make you a whole person again, and recognize your gratitude for cutting loose and returning to the true roots of your spirit and mind. Good for you. That may be harder done than said, understandably. It takes time to make a decision that feels confident enough to act on it in positive, courageous ways. Though if your social circle is complicated, it can be even more daunting and difficult to try to break away from it. For example, you may belong to a college or church or some other organization where this clique has formed to include you. Maybe a longtime friend, spouse, or relative has become immersed in this clique and expects you to remain immersed exactly as they intend to. Unfortunately, this is one of the hardest situations to get out of, because it must be carefully, delicately untangled. In this case, you'd need far more than a stern, confident, and justifiable decision to exit the group. You'd need a carefully constructed plan entailing how to gradually begin making yourself unavailable to this clique, especially if someone within your permanent household expects you to belong to the group. You clearly would want to keep on good terms with certain people, like your spouse. Maybe you hope to fish them free from some exclusive circle of snobbery or other ugly behaviors towards the underprivileged and other people in the world you deeply believe need the greatest protection from people like those in this particular social group. You're a loving, humane soul. You must be your real self. It's hard to stand up for others when you've been pasted into place by sticky expectations of sometimes very aloof people. If you need a plan and don't know where to start, it's never a bad idea to write your concerns down on a list. Then quietly go and talk to a counselor about tactics you might be able to use to dig yourself and perhaps your loved one out of some webby circle that you're feeling trapped in. Just tell them you're stuck in a clique and you don't know how to get out of it. Perhaps you found this brief advice helpful in bringing your attention to the what in the matter. But since all our circumstances vary, the how of the matter may be best discovered through a meaningful chat with someone who's in a position to help you out face to face, whether a professional or a trusted new friend in your life. If you've gotten this far into the video, then chances are that you are in search of emotional, psychological, and even spiritual relief from an ongoing problem of feeling trapped in a clique, group, or circle of peers whose activities bring out far less than the best in you. Maybe you've been suffering with this problem for a very long time, though you didn't seriously consider its solution a priority, instead living with your suffering as your so-called normal. Though, with a few exceptions, the need to act immediately to prioritize your exit from an uncomfortable relationship with this group of people probably isn't anything you'd be satisfied with dismissing. If you really see that this circle has too many insensitive, exclusive, and generally insincere tendencies towards you, anyone you love, or the people in the world who are in need of help, then your insight, your strong intuition, probably shouldn't be ignored. Of course, you'll have to weigh your options and figure out your timing, especially if this problem has been long and deeply entrenched into your life, yielding consequences to your true heart, mind, and spirit. Just remember why you want to free yourself from such a social circle. It can be hard to admit this to others, and sometimes to yourself, but your real nature, everything that makes you ethically whole and fit, is calling from beneath the whispers on the wind. So the final question remains for you to consider. How will you answer your true desire